Welcome back to the Right Brain Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Von Simpson, and with me today I have one of my oldest friends, just time-wise, not really experienced, because he's been away from me. He lives all the way in Georgia, in the South, where I used to live, and now I live in Kansas. Jack Butler, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Glad to be here.
Jack, what do you do?
So I am a audio engineer and I specialize in audio post production. So I specialize in stuff that happens after the recording of the content, I guess.
Nice, nice. And before we get more deep into that, Jack and I have been. We went to elementary school together. We were in Cub Scouts together. It was lit.
Oh yeah.
We were about to go to middle school together, but I had to skedaddle. Um, how is how was middle school and high school and growing up in Lawrenceville?
So after elementary school, I switched school districts because my mom is a middle school counselor.
Oh,
And so I went over to the Brookwood district. Middle school was a weird time for me because I didn't really live near anybody over that way, and everybody had like their own like social circles, I guess, already. So I was just kind of doing my own thing in middle school. High school was it was interesting. I mean, I didn't personally like high school. I felt like it was just like such a minute part of my life. Even when I was in there, I was just like, I'm ready to move on from this.
that makes sense. I feel that. But when you said you changed districts, so like you weren't, so you didn't go to like Collins Hill or
Yeah, so I left like all of the friends I made in elementary school and literally just had to start all over. Yeah.
damn, but you're like living in the same place?
Yeah, so
That's
like
tough,
I
dude. Why?
because my mom worked at the school and she was like, you're gonna go here now
Uh,
because I work there. But I still got to hang out with like the kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that. But,
oh yeah, the squad, the OGs.
oh yeah.
I miss those dudes so much.
Yeah, they miss you too, man. I mean, it's been
Yeah,
forever.
it's been literally a decade and a little and some change.
Yeah.
So y'all still hang out? You guys like the pools? I saw the pool opened on your story.
Yeah,
I miss that
it
pool so
just
much.
opened. It's very cold, the water, but
Oh yeah, I bet.
it's still good to get in and swim and stuff like that.
So different high school, and then after high school, what are you pursuing now?
So after high school, in high school, I was like, I'm gonna be a nurse and go to North Georgia. And then my senior year, I took an optional class, theater, for like just because I was like, I'll just do theater because it's easy. And I ended up like falling in love with the arts. And so I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a nurse. Like that doesn't interest me. I want to do something in the entertainment industry. So I was thinking film at first, like being a director, like working towards that. So I explored some options, but none of the schools around here really interested me. And the guy who owns the school that I went to lives down the street, and he was like, hey, you should think about coming here because you'll learn like a different side of the thing, like audio side instead of video side of things. So I
Okay,
got interested in that and enrolled, and I think I took like a half year off of after high school, and then I got back into college.
that makes sense. That's good. I think those times, like, I think it's dumb how we just like rush into the next stage. I think we need to take time, especially like with everything that happens. Everybody's different, obviously, but like if you have like a tumultuous experience in one of these stages, like middle school, high school, obviously those younger stages are different or difficult to like stop because of development and things. Like you can't just like stop. I guess you could, but it would just be harder to get back into it later, like in high school. But like, I think it's good that you took that time to rest and recollect.
Yeah,
And
I think our public school system kind of pushes um and there's just a lot of opportunities in like trade and entrepreneurship. Like I don't think college is for everybody, even though
oh
they
yeah, I
do
agree. For a while, I was
sometimes make
debating
it
that
seem.
myself, and I mean, I'm glad I'm doing. I like what I do. I like what I study. I don't really do anything with it yet. That's the tough part. But I will see what happens. So, what are you rocking right now with the headphones and
Okay, so these are, I believe they're Audio Technicas,
nice.
and they're pretty good. I got them when I was in school, so they're not like the highest end of headphones.
Doesn't look like the M series to me from this view.
Yeah, no, it's what is the, I have the freaking number around here. I don't have that memorized, but
That's fair.
it does the job. It's got a good low end information, so you're not missing too much of the frequencies. But your headphones look like a, what are those?
These are the Bayer Dynamics, the DT 770 Pros.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of audio engineers with those types of headphones.
Yeah, I was in between these and an Audio Technica pair, either the M40s or the M50s, just because I wanted a pair of what people considered studio monitors.
Mhm.
And this pair, besides being like handmade in Germany, apparently replaceable parts, relatively cheap for what it does. And there was also advertised as like a workhorse headphone, like you could literally play games, listen to really detailed music, like you can possibly edit and produce, like hopefully, that's why I got them. Edit and produce, so seemed like a good pick for me.
Yeah,
But
solid, solid.
yeah. Um, so you got into music production with the theater, or I guess not music production, I should say. Was it more sound design at that point?
It was more just I wanted to be involved in a creative process.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't want to just do, I guess, like a mainstream job that I thought I maybe had wanted to do. I wanted to be able to be my own boss and, not have to adhere to like a bunch of hours and stuff like that.
I like how that sounds. I am very much in the same school of thought.
Yeah,
I'll,
yeah. It's I feel like if you get stuck in that like kind of job area, it can be overwhelming at times.
yeah, no, for real. And when it's not overwhelming, it's monotonous, I feel like.
Oh yeah, like I feel like I would get so tired of just
Because that's how it was for school with me. I was just going there doing the same thing. I was like, I do not want to do this for the rest of my life, like this similar fashion of working.
mhm. And just like working till you're retired or something like that. It's not my idea of living.
Yeah. So I guess I mean I prepared questions for music production, but do you produce music? I kind of
So
assumed this being an asshole, but
uh you're not an asshole, but music production, I dabble in it. So I'm not like, that's not my profession, but I do like to mess around with sounds and try to create some pieces of art.
because I imagine that like you can definitely apply like like sound design to me based on what I know is like it seems like the like very fine details of what that you could apply to then like a song. Like you would make like the snares, you would make the hi-hats from scratch, like
Yeah, definitely like it involves making your own sounds and editing previous sounds to just make sounds that you wouldn't think you can make through like one of my school projects was we took the Wilhelm scream
mm,
and we had to create different sounds with it, like different uses for it,
that's
and
lit.
it was interesting.
Damn. That's kind of hype. I'm gonna have to look into this trade school thing. Um, how long is that? It's like 6 months, a year? For you at
um
least.
for the school I went to,
Yeah, or it's an associates you said, right? So it's probably like two
yeah,
years.
2 years and like 4 months, I guess.
Right. Okay, that's kind of lit.
Yeah, it went by pretty fast. It, it definitely went by fast. I didn't think it would just fly by like that.
Yeah. Um, all right, yeah. Yeah, so can you explain like what the day-to-day of sound design is like or not? I guess if there is a day-to-day, like just what are you doing when you're designing a sound, I guess.
So usually sound design, is you get, I guess, contracted to make sounds for a certain content, like maybe a video somebody shot or like a commercial or an animation, and you're just building that world up through sound. Um, and so you got to think about like what's on screen and like how you would apply sound to that, building to make it sound like more realistic, because without the sound it's just images.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, do you do that on like a traditional DAW, like a digital audio workstation, or
I
are
usually
there
do it in
specific?
I do it in Pro Tools, usually sound design.
Nice. I didn't know you could do that there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, just you just got to use plugins, and there's a really good tool in Pro Tools called Audio Suite, which allows you to select a clip and apply a audio effect directly to the clip.
You have like a raw recording and you can just does it apply it to the entire like
It basically alters the clip. So like you select it and you go to Audio Suite, and there's one that I really like that's like a reverse, so you can reverse the sound in the clip.
that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Audio Suite's awesome, but it's also like you can't hear the change before you do it. So you got to know like what the change you're doing does before before you do it.
Oh, and so there's no like undo and redo.
There is an undo. Like you can Command Z and undo it, but it's not like you can audition what you're doing before you do it
Right.
or hear it in real time.
And so you mentioned you use Pro Tools, and so for that's for more for sound design. Do you see yourself using something different for music production? Like how has your efforts in music production gone in Pro
For
Tools?
sure. I like Pro Tools is like terrible for music production. I'll tell you that.
That is what I've been
Uh
hearing.
yeah, it's really difficult to produce on Pro Tools. I would definitely say Ableton or Logic, even Fruity Loops. I don't have Fruity Loops personally, but it is a good production tool.
Yeah.
Uh, those
I
types of DAWs are a lot easier to produce on.
Yeah, a couple years ago I was messing around with like a cracked version of Fruity Loops and just trying to see like if I even liked it because I was still like thinking about it. I was like I'm not really for all this. I want to like pursue my passion, which is music.
Mhm.
And I still kind of want to do that in the future. We'll see at what capacity. Um, but yeah, Fruity Loops was awesome because they have for me at least, because they have the step sequencer, which is like
Mhm.
center, like you just plug in which notes you want, like, and it has like the beats, and then you can just sequence like this will hit the kick will hit in this row like at these times, and then the
Mhm.
snare will hit like every two and four, or and then
I
it's
think
just
Ableton has a tool like that as well,
Logic
but
Pro just got it this year, and that was like what sold me. I was like, all right, yeah, I got to get this now because it's aside from my limited knowledge of it at the time, I was like, yeah, I know how to do this. This is visual, it's appealing, and it's just easier than like trying to drag audio clips and time it in the timeline for me.
yeah, Fruity Loops, I don't really like some of the interface options in Fruity Loops. It's a bit difficult for me to work around.
It is a little ugly, I will say. That's what Logic Pro, that's what I use right now. That's what they got right because it's very Apple, but that's
Mhm.
a double-edged sword because Apple is very particular in how they operate. So
Oh
if
yeah.
they don't like it and they change it and you liked it, you're kind of SOL.
Yeah.
So
Apple does what they want.
yeah, literally. Um, so that's lit. My next question is about like studio designs and your plans for that. Do you see like separate studios if you were to do each different thing, sound design, music production, do you think you could do a lot of it in the same space?
So most of the stuff I do, I could probably do in the same space with like the studio setup I have. I have a like a design that I did in one of my classes for like my ideal studio setup.
No
with
way.
like all the equipment and like how it would be arranged. But I would definitely say if I was to get into more sound design and like Foley, I would want a separate room for recording sounds and stuff like that,
Right.
because that's hard to do when like in the same room with your DAW and stuff, because you have to worry about feedback loops and
Oh yeah,
potentially ruining
and like there's
all of your
interface in
systems.
like there's electromagnetic interference too sometimes.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful about that, because you could end up busting your studio monitors, and you would be it would be pretty fucking bad.
Oh yeah. Um, so with are there like certain I bet you the mics are different to record with too, huh?
Yeah, so different mics are better for different things.
Yeah.
I would say like condenser, large diaphragm condensers are typically better for vocals. They get like that kind of dry, like just pure sound. Dynamics are more for like instruments, like miking up like an amp or a snare drum or something like that. Ribbon microphones, they're just a bit like you'd have to look at the specs and like what spectrum they cover and
And those
stuff
are
like
also
that.
very fragile along with condenser mics.
Yeah, yeah, ribbons are very temperamental.
Yeah. For the audience, this is a dynamic mic that I'm using right now. This is a Shure SM58. I got it because it was cheap and it's all around. It's
Oh
like these
yeah,
headphones. You can do almost anything, and that's
it's
why.
the vocalist. The vocalists love that mic. They're like, yeah, that's my mic.
Yeah,
It's like,
and it's literally $100 a pop, and you get excellent quality sound. Every podcast you've ever heard on this channel has been through this mic. Say you're recording like a sound for something or someone, a project, and it's like super weird. What's the weirdest sound like um, you've ever had to record to like
ooh.
either to make something like that sound or to make something completely different?
So one of the sounds that was really difficult for me to figure out how to do was I was doing a sound design for this short little like horror short film trailer. And there was a scene where the woman is filing her teeth. And I was like, how in the world am I going to get a sound of like somebody filing their teeth down? And I did like a bunch of different things, but I ended up doing like a hacksaw against a cinder block
Hmm.
and like messing around with the pitch and the speed of it. And it sounded, with the image, it sounded like cringy. Like it was like it would make you be like, oh,
Oh yeah, you get that the hairs on your back standing up.
oh yeah.
That's kind of cool. Damn, teeth grinding together, or like yeah,
She had like a file,
or a
like
file. Right, right, right.
that
Yeah.
she was using on her teeth. It
Hmm.
was, I was like, how in the hell am I going to do this? But it
Strange.
was a fun adventure to figure out how to get that sound.
You should have told me. My dad has to do that to his horses.
Oh shoot, file down their teeth.
Yeah, because they just don't stop growing, so they can hurt them if they don't eat the right stuff, which they never are because we're processing everything.
Hmm.
So yeah, you have to file
Dang.
them down.
Yeah, that would have been cool to capture like the actual filing of a tooth.
Yeah.
But usually in sound design, like there's a lot of things that you don't want to use the actual action for, because something that you would never think would be that sound actually makes the sound like a lot better than what maybe the real thing would sound like.
And what makes a sound better than the original? Like what and what? How do you mean?
So not every, so like let's say like you captured the sound of your dad filing down a horse's tooth.
Mm.
Well, it could just be just kind of like this grinding noise. When in the horror trailer, I need something that is gonna make
Oh, you need to convey that
people's,
feeling
yeah,
through
exactly.
the
So
sound. Oh, that's yeah. I never thought about it like that.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's pretty crazy. Like usually like people's like walking in snow, it's usually like, I forgot the ingredients, but it's like baking soda and one other ingredient inside like a leather pouch, and they like squish it with their hands. It's not even like they're recording people walking on snow. It's
Oh, they're probably making oobleck, which is like baking soda and water maybe. Like it's But that like if you
I'm sure water is one of the ingredients, but I know baking soda is like the main thing.
it's like non-Newtonian fluids, like maybe I could be wrong, but it's like if you like squeeze it like really fast, it gets hard, like very fast. So that could be, I don't know. But that's
Yeah,
cool. That's
that's
cool how you have to think about you have to think about all those different elements, like what is the thing in that's making the sound, you know, because all that all affects it. That's
yeah. It'll definitely make you watch movies different. Like
oh yeah.
you'll be like, oh, that's not
You can
the
like pick out
actual
what's
action. Like
yeah.
it's something completely different.
Have you been able to like reverse engineer like the like sounds in a movie and TV shows and stuff? You could like speculate.
No, I haven't been able to do it personally, but I've seen it done.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
Um, like I think one of the sounds we saw reverse engineered was a submarine propeller spinning underwater.
Mm.
And it was like this guy who had an underwater mic and an overhead mic. And it was just this dude cannonballing in a pool.
Oh,
And they
snap.
like pitched it down several octaves and slowed it down and then like stacked it on a reverse sound and a mix of the overhead and underwater mic, and it like created this kind of like bubbly like underwater sound.
That's crazy. That sounds like a lot of experimentation.
It is. It's an art form. Foley and sound design is definitely something that you gotta be able to explore what you would think would make the right sound.
Yeah. And you keep mentioning Foley. I thought you meant when you said it before. I thought you meant like Foley as in like to be full. You know, like um, what is that for me and the people?
Okay, so Foley is basically a Foley artist is somebody who goes into a studio, and let's say there's a scene of a guy walking down the hallway. He enters the front door, closes it, throws his key on the desk, and walks and takes off his gloves. So the Foley artist is watching the scene on screen, and he has a bunch of mics around him and objects, and he's like making the sounds with the picture to make like a
Like a rough cut.
yeah, basically it's interesting to watch. You should search it up on YouTube, like Foley artist for like in the making, because they do crazy stuff.
No, yeah, I will for sure. And that's Foley spelled Foley.
Yep.
All right, there we go. Fourth grade spelling bee champ. Um,
I was not a spelling bee.
yeah, I mean, you move and don't have any friends, you kind of have to do the other thing, which is school. Uh,
Yeah, true.
so within like sound design, what are like the most typical plugins you'll use?
So I really like Massive by Native Instruments, which is a synth
Okay, yeah,
plugin, and it allows you to take different waveforms and alter the waveforms, like the envelope and how there's like a bunch of different oscillators that you can activate. You can
yeah.
add like a noise oscillator on top of the, let's say like a sine wave or a triangle wave.
Do you know if
And
it's
you,
a do you know if it's a monophonic or a polyphonic synth?
so you can make it monophonic or polyphonic,
That's good.
and you can like detune it and all sorts of things. Massive is like, I guess, the golden child of like synth makers.
Is it is it free or is it a pretty penny?
Oh no, it's pretty damn expensive.
Damn. And I know of a really advanced synth. I haven't taken the time to like figure out what exactly it can do. It's called Helm. It's free. I don't know if
Hell,
you've heard of it.
no, I have not heard of
It's
Helm.
available. It has a ton of different parameters to change.
Mhm.
So I bet you could make some pretty crazy stuff on there if you want. You can
Oh
check it
yeah,
out. It's great for music production. I've messed around with it and just made a couple great sounding just sounds, just even tweaking some of the presets. But you can
yeah,
completely go balls to the wall and just make whatever you want. Helm, for sponsoring. It's made by one dude. Dude, if you're watching, thank you. Um, but yeah, Helm, not the
yeah. I'll
sponsor.
definitely
I
check it
wish.
out. Maybe one day.
Yeah. So since you got into the sound design and then you dabble in music production, has that like inspired you to pick up an instrument? Have you played before?
The only instrument I've ever played before was the viola.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
I'm actually
viola.
I'm about a minor in music with the viola.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I played the viola for like 3 years. That's the only instrument I've ever really played. I'm not super like musically like instrumentally inclined. But I know like some of the theory and what sounds good together. So
Oh yeah. Have you heard of a guy called Andrew Huang on YouTube?
I recognize the name.
He's a music producer. And I guess he probably does some sound design too, I bet. But he has a bunch of really good videos on just music production and tips and just all around like just either music stuff, sound stuff. He's got it all. He's a really cool guy based on his videos. Um, but yeah, check him
Yeah,
out if
music
you.
production is it's definitely, I would say, if you're trying to get into it, just take your time, and like when you have like an outline, just know that like there are finer details that you can add and tweak, especially stuff with like the stereo field. Like people like to hear sounds moving across
Yeah,
left and right, and the dynamic range, like things get quieter and louder in the song. It just adds to the I guess the range of the song.
yeah. In terms of like sound design, what is like the element that you would say is the most important to like get right, or else it just doesn't convey what you need?
I would say knowing what your plugins do to the sounds, and also learning how to stack sounds, because usually in sound design it's not like just one little clip. It's like one sound is like maybe 5 or 6 clips stacked together and all altered.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of the same way with some artists will like stack a clap and a snare together, or like two sets of hi hats, just to make it sound different.
Mhm.
Um, are there any like I've never heard of a sound designer. You're probably the first one I've ever talked to. I'll be honest. Um, but that's not a bad thing. I'm just wondering if there are any that you look up to that you like know that you think, oh, they do some crazy stuff. How do they do that?
All right, so it's pretty stereotypical for sound designers, but I would say the person I look up to the most is a guy named Ben Burt. And Ben Burt is like the father of all like sci-fi sound design.
Oh,
He did the Star Wars blaster sound. He did that. He did the lightsaber sounds. He did all the sound design for Wall-E, which is like an insane sound design movie.
yeah, it is.
If you watch it for the sound, like an intent, like pay attention to the sound, that movie is crazy.
I bet, yeah, because I mean, even just the AI guy, the way he talks is that's just awesome to me.
And Ben Burt, like he didn't even see the movie. He did like all like just hundreds of thousands of sounds and just gave them the sounds, and they like picked which sounds he made to
What?
use in the movie. Yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
like insane.
Wait, so did he like he probably read the script or something, right?
He knew like what the themes were and like who the main characters were going to be, but like he didn't see like the movie at all. Like he just had the idea of what it was going to be about and just started making sounds.
Huh. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, Ben Burt is he is that guy when it comes to sound design.
He is that guy. So for sound design, would you say what matters most in like terms of like what you have? Does equipment matter, like what you're recording into and stuff and all that? Or like is it the space that you're in? Or is it the actual like quality of the source, like of the object or action that you're recording?
I would say equipment definitely does matter. Like the better equipment you got, like usually the more refined it's going to sound. But I would say the most important thing is the sound designer knowing like what they're doing, and being able to get out of the box, like do things that you wouldn't think would normally work. Um, and the quality of the source sound is definitely important, because if you got a bad like sound, then usually like the end product is just going to be bad as well.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing from like musicians who record. They're like, get it right at the source,
Oh
because
yeah.
you're manipulating it digitally mostly nowadays.
Hmm.
So it's just gonna it's it's just I feel like it's too much black and white, so then it just doesn't like you turn this on, turns this off, but at a much larger scale. And I think that just ruins it. It probably just gets too warbled or just past what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. Recording, like having a recording engineer is really important because they're going to know which is a bad take. And like the musician might play well, but maybe the mic isn't picking it up right, or there's something wrong. Like he needs to fix something with the levels or the gain. And that's really important because if you don't get a quality sound, not just like the musician played it well, then the music isn't going to be as good as it could be.
Yeah, that's that's probably true. Damn. So yeah, you mentioned earlier that sound design is like an art.
Oh
Is there
yeah.
like there's probably like other arts. There's probably like a basic set of like do's and don'ts and
Yeah, there's definitely some things that you can do and you can't. I mean, my teacher always told me that like you don't want to say you like can't do a certain thing because you want to be able to explore your options, but also like there are some things that like you just can't do, like sounds that clash with one another or like kind of embody the same frequency. It's just going to overlap and it's not going to fit well together unless you're going for, unless you have a sound that clashes together and ends up making something that you actually want. But usually you don't want to use sounds that embody like the same bass frequency because they're just going to cover each other up.
and do you know of any like happy accidents like that you've like read about or come across or that you've done yourself?
There's actually a bunch of industry stuff where like people just do like crazy things. I think I read one about this woman who put a mic inside of a vacuum tube and like was recording sounds that way
Hmm.
and ended up like creating like a super weird technique that people use nowadays. Um, One of my teachers talked about like wrapping a mic in like a waterproof container and like trying to pour water, like put it in water and record sounds that way.
Huh.
He said it didn't work, but he was trying to invent something new.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I know that the way what was that? What was the Star Wars guy's name in the Wally?
Ben Burtt, yeah.
Ben Burr. I know the way he made the lightsabers sounds was very, at least to me, it seemed very obscure. I forgot what it was. It was like was it a tube of a TV?
Um, yeah, it was something with I forgot
I
what
think it
part
was
it
some
was.
sort of static.
Yeah, it was. What was it? I know the blaster sound is a stretched out slinky that he's hitting with like a metal like little tube.
Oh, right. Yeah. And then I think they kind of just he found both at the same time because when they would get close, I think it would cause like some sort of
And I think
interference.
some of the like lightsabers clashing is styrofoam like rubbed together.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. And then so I imagine like you hear that sound, right? And you like know what the source was. Do you then try to like replicate that with everything that you know and just kind of figure out the missing pieces?
Yeah, I would say that like once you discover like an object makes a certain sound, like you want to take that and like use the tools that you have to make it basically where you want it. Because like the sound of styrofoam rubbing together itself isn't going to be like
No, it's pretty unpleasant.
sound like lasers
Yeah.
clashing. It's you got to do something to it.
Well, yeah, but yeah, and I imagine you chop it up and whatnot. Um, but yeah, that's crazy. Logic actually has a pretty nifty sampler that came with this new big update. I still have to learn how to use all that. That's the hardest part, man, is just keeping up with all of it.
Yeah,
Especially,
I
I
would just
mean,
say go
if
to the parameters and just start cranking stuff because you're not going to break anything.
that's
Like
true.
just you're like, I don't know what this does. And you play and just crank it all the way up and be like, oh, that's what it does. And then you know.
Yeah. So do you have like a setup that you use at home when you're not like when you're not working or
Uh, Not really right now because money's kind of tight because I'm just starting out my career. And when I graduated, the whole pandemic started. So like everything was shut down.
yeah.
And I was like, great. So now I'm stuck at home without a job for like almost a year now.
I
But
mean I'm the
now,
same way. I had a job before COVID and I was a houseboy at a sorority, so nothing crazy. Um, and then it just got dissolved because of obvious reasons. And yeah, I've been a anxious and afraid to work and because before vaccinations and things,
mhm,
it was scary, and also like I just didn't know like nowhere was hiring, and also I didn't know like what I would want to do like that would be worth going in that type of environment.
mhm.
That's just
Yeah.
me personally, and that's coming from a place of a lot of privilege, I know, but um,
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta just take the risk and realize that you gotta go out and work.
yeah, no,
And the
I
thing
agree.
is like people do have like some people do have the opportunity to not work and some people do have to work.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that I was in the position to where my parents could help me out in this time, because then it gave me the extra time to really think about what I really wanted to do in my life because I had just been going through the motions and I was also
Yeah.
grappling with my mental health and um, so I'm really glad that I got the time to do that and also the time to put together this podcast, which is just something that I've really always wanted to do. Um, and then it gave us the chance to interview now. So
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people went through something similar
yeah,
with that. Like
like a
they had to
hobby.
reassess like themselves and like kind of figure out like, hey, what am I doing like with my life and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense because you it's at that time we didn't know like how bad it was gonna get, how bad it is, like you know,
Mhm.
we didn't know if we were gonna see the people we love the next time, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you think about what's important
It
and
does. It's crazy.
the world will
Uh,
do that.
the word, yeah, honestly, nature's got to keep us in check somehow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I've been
something that's
learning.
undefeatable.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot about like plugins and stuff, but have you ever like messed around with just like a sine wave and just adding things to it and making
So that's what I do in Massive a lot. Is I'll take a sine wave and just start altering like how fast it's like the frequency it's going at and the rate. Um, and then you start getting into like the oscillators that will mess with the envelope, which is attack, sustain, decay, and release. And you start to figure out like how all those things affect the sound and how you can change the sound from just this basic sine wave into something like an 808. Like sine waves are a great wave to make your own 808s.
That's true. That's what I've been learning about, um, just through the internet. That it's just an 808, and you turn up the attack a little bit, and just change the other little parameters just a little tiny
Yeah,
bit.
pitch
And
it down a
yeah,
bunch.
it's nothing crazy. Honestly, you can make an 808 out of almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of wild. Um, so I smoke weed every day. Do you? Did you? You mentioned you were sober before this. Do
Yeah,
you?
so I used to a lot, and you know, I got to the point where like I was just kind of like, I think I'm like outgrowing this. Like I think I just need to like do other things with my time and money
Yeah.
because it definitely costs money.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was something that like I enjoyed when I was younger and had the time to just chill out and smoke weed and
It's
you
fair.
know it brought a lot of like fun memories with my friends and stuff like that. And definitely like music wise, it can give you like you're sort of in like a rhythm sometimes. Uh and you just kind of going with like what you like, and it can produce something that ends up being pretty good. But as an engineer, I can't, because I'm listening to the sonic quality, and when you're high, it messes with your hearing. So
That makes sense.
I can't be I guess altered while I'm engineering.
That's good. Yeah, I think, well, it's two very different like ways of conveying feeling, I'd say. Like you're doing it in music through like all the like similar things, like the way it sounds and like like the timbres of the notes obviously, and like and the scales and stuff that you use, but like I feel like I don't know. I've never tried sound design, so I can't really speak to it. Just the way that you're making sounds to convey feeling.
Yeah,
Music,
it's more like you need to be able to recognize the quality of the sound, and you need to listen for the different types of frequencies it's embodying, and what doesn't work and what does. And for music, I would say it's pretty great, because you get into that feeling. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, but like a lot of jazz drummers back in the day, like there was no jazz drummer who played like sober, because like not any good ones at
I mean, you
least.
gotta have the swing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't mean a thing if you don't got it. What kind of emotions are you trying to convey when you like? Because I know like with music, you can convey like sadness and happiness, obviously, and like nostalgia. Sometimes it's very difficult, but yes. Like what kind of are you conveying those types of sounds when you're designing a sound for a movie? Like, or are you is it more like shock and fear,
So
suspense?
it really depends on the project. Usually, when you're starting a sound design project, you basically start off with this thing called a sound map, where you watch the movie and or read the script, and you have like an emotion chart, like happy, sad, light, dark, uh, calm, and chaotic. And you kind of map out the feeling of each scene. And then at that point, you know, like which feeling goes with which scene. And then you take that and try to design a sound that conveys those feelings, so it can add to the effect of the script in the visuals.
Hmm, interesting. That reminds me of like how like cartoons are made or like
Oh yeah,
animated movies because they like storyboard it and then they
that would be
record.
that's like one of my dreams, is to like do sound design for like an animation or
Yeah.
like a video game or something, because you're literally bringing that world to life. It's just like animation and drawings until you put in the sound.
Is there a particular company or like studio that you would want to get behind?
Ooh. Probably for video games, I would say CD Project Red, just because they have a bunch of like quality stuff out. Like to work on like a Witcher game or something like that would be awesome.
Yeah, you think that like genre is more I guess does it matter like what like how the overall project is, or is it just like when you're making the sounds, is there a certain type of feeling that you like to create more for?
I definitely gravitate more towards like sci-fi
Mm,
and that type of stuff. But I would love to try my hand at like fantastical world.
yeah. And would you say you gravitate more towards sci-fi because of like the accessibility, or like it requires least manipulation, or is it like what makes sci-fi attractive?
Probably just because of my influences in like content as a child. I mean, like growing up watching Star Wars, and I mean, one of my favorite artists is Kid Cudi, and Cudi definitely has those space sci-fi type sounds.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just an influence on like what I grew up with.
Yeah. I've been only just been getting into Cuddy this year, which is terribly sad, I know. but just because of how what I've heard what I've missed, and I've been like, wow, this has been here the whole time.
Yeah, he has an incredible discography.
He does, and
He
even the
does
unreleased
everything.
stuff, even like
Yeah,
that song "Love" I sent you the other day. I don't know if you'd heard that before. That is one of my favorite probably songs that I've heard so far.
yeah, he is a musical genius in my opinion. I think, but he went through a lot
Oh
in his
yeah,
childhood,
yeah,
and you can hear it in his music.
yeah, and that's also why I am gravitating towards him, just because I relate in some aspects of his experiences. Obviously,
Yeah,
very different.
he definitely went through some rough times.
Did you see his TED talk that he made?
No, I haven't seen his TED talk.
Yeah, he made a TED talk where he went back to his high school and just talked about like life as a musician and handling his mental health and just that overall. It's really good because it's not um, it's Scott Muscuddy. It's not Kid Cudi. You know, it's like
Mhm.
he's not putting up that I guess front, but he's not very that type either.
He has a he's on an old episode of Joe Rogan, like back in the early days,
Yeah, I think I've
uh,
seen that or parts of it.
where he talks about like how he hated performing like live, like he just like hated it, and he had to get to a point where like he actually liked it, but like in the early on in his career, he was just like just hated doing it.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That's one of the things I have anxieties over when with music is just performing in front of people or things like that because I did orchestra too also.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So did you enjoy viola? What was your experience with that?
So I was a decent viola player, and I did not practice or anything. Like I would just go to class and I would play, and like I ended up being like second chair or something. I didn't really take it seriously. So, but I did enjoy playing an instrument, like and being a part of like a larger group. But I never really got into it to the point where I was like, I'm gonna go home and practice playing and like be the best I can at this.
Yeah, that was me during high school. In middle school, I had a different teacher, and he was a lot more like I had just had a lot more like assessments and stuff, so I had to like actually show up for it and like do well. But yeah, I was the same way in high school. I was just kind of fucking around um, and I fucked around and got first chair, which was one of the few things I
Hey,
like tried out for. So that was lit. I was first
yeah,
chair for like three
I never
years.
practiced enough to be first chair.
I just wanted to do it to have like a leadership position, see how I like that,
Mhm.
and it was a good time. I led the practices when we did like individual instrument practice. So your new school district had that orchestra program. Do they have a band program too, and a choir and stuff?
Yeah, they had a band and choir, but orchestra was like, I guess it was like the cooler of the three in middle school. Like, I don't know, like I guess the music they played with resonated a lot more with me.
And with me, I decided in the fourth grade if I wanted to do band, orchestra, or not. And so for me, I was between the clarinet or the viola, and I picked viola. And for me, I played from fifth grade to eighth grade with the same teacher, but he taught at both my elementary school and my middle school at the respective
Mhm.
times. And then in high school, I had a different teacher for just those 4 years. For you, how was that experience? Like choosing either band or orchestra, or like how does that work in where you are?
So my family, like my cousins who are older than me, all played orchestra, and I like went to their concerts, and like they all played the viola, of course, and so that kind of affected my decision in joining orchestra and playing the viola.
Yeah, but is it like a similar process where like you pick at that young and then you just play every day?
Uh, yeah, it was sort of like a similar process to that, where you pick. I think I picked in sixth grade, and you just went there pretty much every day to learn songs and stuff.
Yeah. Hmm. All right. Well, Jack, I think this has been a great episode. It's been great talking to you and like catching up and getting to know these aspects of sound design and your dabbles in music production. Is there anything you want to say to the people?
Uh, Stay hopeful, y'all. I mean, things will get better. The darkest night is always eliminated by the dawning sun. So make sure you stay focused.
There we
Hard
go.
work and dedication will bring you your goals, and pursue something meaningful because that's an obligation.
Hell yeah. I like that. I like where your mind's at, Jack. You think good things.
I try to, man.
You think good things, man. Is it alright if I shout out your Instagram, Twitter, and stuff like that? I saw that you created a new one for
Yeah, so my Instagram is sound by underscore JB.
all right, there we go. You guys
And
saw
I
that?
do
Oh,
not have a Twitter. Um,
it's good.
so
It's good. Smart.
I just a business Instagram.
It's good. That's probably the way to do it, honestly. Um, but yeah, I'll have that in the end card and shout it out and stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. I hope I hope this was not a waste of time. And
Definitely not. It
yeah,
was
let's keep talking, man. I don't like being strangers like this. I fucking miss you.
yeah, man, I miss you too. It was great coming on the show.
Yeah, for sure, man.